The China 7th population census showed that the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region's population increased by 18.5% from 2010 to 2020. Officials from the Statistics Bureau indicate that the steady population growth followed improvement in quality of life and education. How was this conclusion reached? What signals has the census sent? I'm pleased to be joined via Zoom from Beijing by Dr. Wang Jiang, Distinguished Research Fellow at the Institute for Frontier Region of China at Zhejiang Normal University, and also via Zoom from Guilin, Southwest China, Barrie Vveiss, founder of Best China Info. Gentlemen, welcome to The Point. Dr. Wang, let me go to you. According to statistics released on Monday, Xinjiang's permanent population has maintained steady growth, reaching 25.9 million by October last year, a rise of over 4 million from the country's sixth population census in 2010. This rise has led Xinjiang's population growth to be number 21 among the 31 provinces, autonomous regions and municipalities on the Chinese mainland. That's 4 places higher than Xinjiang's ranking 10 years ago. What does that mean?
We can obviously to say it's a dramatic growth of the population in Xinjiang, especially for the ethnic minority groups. It's just a growth from the, I think it's around 10%, which is 4.01% higher than the average level of the whole country. So to understand that, I think usually we call the Chinese family plan policy as one child policy, but it's just I think it's just simplifies the whole policy, because in Xinjiang especially, the Han Chinese to implement the whole policy at 1975, but after 70 years later, the ethnic minorities in Xinjiang, which is 1992, start to implement the similar policy. But also, I should mention, in the urban area, the Han people only have allowed to have one child. In the rural area, they're allowed to have 2 child. But for the ethnic minority in the urban area, they can have 2 child, and in the countryside, they can have 3 child. For the latest policy, which is a 3-child policy, you can say for all the Han Chinese or ethnic minorities, they can all have 3 child, no matter where they live.
We'll talk
so
about,
I think that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a moment. But first, let's take a look at some other numbers which were released on Monday. The population growth rate in the region over the past decade was 18.5%. That's 13 percentage points higher than the country's average. So, Mr. Vveiss, I don't know how much you have been reading about this subject, but according to your understanding and your knowledge, what factors have accounted for such dramatic growth?
Well, it seems to me that China is always very favorable and gives minorities what they would call in England positive discrimination. That is to say, excuse me, they are looked upon favorably and are given maybe more opportunities than Han Chinese. And so this is a positive discrimination that I see throughout China. I live in Guangxi, so we have large minority population here, obviously, and there is this positive discrimination. I noticed something that our friend Adrian Zenz has looked at these figures himself and has found a way, yet again, to massage these figures and actually misconstrue figures and data and make it read like something else. So that's an interesting development. He's just put out a report.
Mr. Vveiss, help us understand the overall trend, however, of a slowing increase and eventually declining population growth trends in not just Xinjiang, but also in every single part of China. The growth rate is slowing down. How do you look at that and the possible reasons behind that?
Well, I think it's not just China, it's worldwide. Population growth is slowing down because people are maybe more focused on careers, and people are less inclined to have children at the moment. And I think it's mainly to do with socio-economic things that that, as I say, there are more couples, there are more single people, for example, now. More people are choosing to stay single for longer, and it's a natural phenomenon. This is not particular to China. It's not particular to Xinjiang for sure. But again, of course, there are people who are taking this natural decline and manipulating this data to try and say something else.
Of the total permanent population in Xinjiang, the Han ethnic group, which is the ethnic majority group in China, the Han ethnic group population in Xinjiang accounts for 2/5 of the population in Xinjiang, while ethnic minorities comprise nearly 3/5. And among all the minorities, the Uyghur ethnic group alone accounts for almost 80%. Compared to the 6th population census, Dr. Wang, the population of Han people increased quite a bit as well. For instance, the sheer number increased by 2.2 million, but it is registered that 1.95 million came from people who migrated into Xinjiang from other parts of China. Actually, nearly 90% of the total population increase of Han ethnic group came from migration within China from different regions into Xinjiang. What explains such large number of inflows of ethnic Han people into Xinjiang? And are these migrations organized or spontaneous?
Okay, first of all, I think China is a free country. So for some of our audience from the Western country, maybe it's a little bit hard to recognize. But it is the truth. If you live in China, you know you can move basically freely in the whole country. So for many Han Chinese, they are also looking for job opportunities, and also the imbalance of the development is a huge issue in China. So many Han people, they are travel and they are moved to Xinjiang and they find a job and they try to develop Xinjiang as well as some the people living in Xinjiang as well. They become the part of a whole society. So I don't think that's the issue. And also the Western people shouldn't use like the perspective of the colonization to try to explain this phenomenon. It's just not the truth.
The census data showed that the number of people with college education in Xinjiang rose to 16,500 per 100,000. That's 6,000 more than in 2010, also 1,000 more than the country's average. And the number of people who have received senior high school education also rose. Mr. Vveiss, what according to your impression, have contributed to the rise of people with college and high school education in Xinjiang? Your observation in China, in Guilin, of course not in Xinjiang, but in China in general, of the kind of emphasis and investment in education of the local people?
China invests in people. The people of China are the biggest resource, and this is what China is about. And China is plowing money into investment, into infrastructure, into education. China wants to raise its population, and this is a tangible and provable fact. Whereas other countries might invest in some negative ways of doing things, China plows money, it plows investment, it plows emphasis into raising people, into giving people a better standard of life. So education is incredibly important, and especially in Xinjiang, which is a hugely, fastly developing region, and skill set needs to be lifted. So that kind of explains it.
Dr. Wang, what do you think is the reason behind the higher penetration rate of college degrees in Xinjiang, even higher than the country's average? And what kind of efforts have gone in there to continue to raise the level of competency of the local population?
I mean, first of all, if we look at the data, and you can obviously to say in Xinjiang we experienced a baby boom during around the year of 2000. So for people around the age of 20, they more likely they are in the suitable age for the college or universities. And also, I think for Xinjiang, if there is any of the experience on Xinjiang issue, I think the education is crucial for us to deal with the challenge of the terrorism and the challenge of the extremism, also the challenge of the poverty. That is why we put huge money on higher education, on educating people, and that is the future to develop the Xinjiang even to facing a even better future.
Finally, how credible are these numbers? I mean, how are the Chinese census conducted so that these numbers can be credible? And there are certain discrepancies between these numbers and other population numbers previously released by authorities. Dr. Wang, how do you look at these kind of discrepancies?
I mean, compared with some of the Western think tank, they only give like hearsay evidence on this population issue. But differently with them, and for this time, the Chinese authority, to count those numbers, to deal in those figures, they have like over 1,500 institutions to try to gather in all the information. As Chinese citizens, I believe you and me, we all following different forums on that. And also in Xinjiang, there's during this time, they have like over 130,000 like employee and volunteers working on this issue. Also, the state council sent a random inspection team to check the data if that's correct. So as far as I can say, and this data is as close as possible to the fact, how many peoples, how many individuals in Xinjiang.